Good evening, friends. And that's not what I was expected to say in opening the postgame pod. I thought it would be more like good afternoon, but Syracuse and Boston College had other plans because this one stretched a little longer than we thought. As Eddie Lampkin put it after the game, we played for 3 hours, little extra time at the JMA Wireless Dome tonight. It took triple overtime for Syracuse to win and knock off Boston College 95-86. Welcome to Syracuse Basketball Postgame, presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. My name is Brent Axe, and I got to hand it to my good friend and Syracuse Sports Insider, and we're going to hear from plenty of our Syracuse Sports Insiders about this one tonight. Mark Frank, shout out to my guy Mark, who I think described what we saw at the Dome first in the afternoon, then into the evening, as beautifully as one could put it. It was the best, worst game ever, right? It was the best, worst game ever, because if I say to you 10 years from now, 15 years from now, February 8th, 2025, I think you're going to look at me and be like, what, did it snow a lot that day? Or did I miss something? Like, no one's going to be like, oh yeah, Syracuse, Boston College, triple overtime. But if I say that date and it doesn't really ring a bell, and then I say, remember that Syracuse Boston College triple overtime game? You're going to be like, oh man, that game, right? And I don't think in a way that we reflect on, say, the 6 overtime game back in the day. Like anytime somebody brings up the 6 overtime game, and this was the first time Syracuse had gone to 3 overtimes since the epic 6 overtime game between Syracuse and Connecticut in the Big East tournament in 2009. I don't think it's going to be reflected on that way. Like, oh man, I got a story for you. Like, you remember what you were doing, where you were as that game stretched until well into the night. This night, maybe you'll be like, yeah, they made me late for my dinner reservation or something like that. But listen, they won the game. And I will say this before we dig into the meat and potatoes a little bit. This season needed a moment. This season needed something to cling on to, and I don't know what's going to come the rest of the year, as our Syracuse Sports Insiders had a surprising theme that developed amongst what they took away from this game that I don't think is going to pop into your head right away here. We'll get to that coming up here shortly, but I think this season needed something. It needed something to cling on to, right? And by the way, I had totally forgotten about this. Syracuse, Youngstown State, that feels like it was months. I mean, it was literally months ago. That feels like it was years ago. That went to double overtime. That was the third game of the season, right? So they have been in a double overtime game this year and have had some close games, have had some barn burners. But this game, let's just say it was unique. It was unique. But I don't think anybody's going to buy any T-shirts remembering this one, have any commemorative plaques in this one. Like, people still walk around town with that 6 overtime T-shirt, right? The Marathon Men. Shout out to our guys at Holy Shirt who put that out back in the day. So, yeah, it was a stupid game in a lot of ways. Some of you were texting me like, we're going to get salty Brent after this one. Yeah, I'll just say this. I think you got to take the win. Not only literal sense, just kind of take the win, and that there was a lot of curious coaching decisions made in this game. There was a lot of things that had me, I'm surprised I have hair left on my head, because as you guys know, and I am fond of, free throws matter. By golly, the free throws in this game. Syracuse goes 18 of 32 at the free throw line. That's 56%. JJ's missing free throws. Jair's missing free throws. Everybody's taking turns missing free throws in clutch spots. There was a stretch, I can't even remember when it was, the first overtime, regulation, whatever it was, that they missed the front end of a one-on-one free throw 3 times in a row. Boston College shot worse than Syracuse, at least percentage-wise, 9 of 18, 50%. Donald Hand Jr., who had a great game and is a great player. I really loved watching him tonight. He's kind of stuck on a bad team. He could play for anybody in this league. Donald Hand Jr. came into this game, guys, Boston College, as a 91% free throw shooter. He was leading the ACC. He goes 3 of 8 at the free throw line, missed 2 huge free throws in, I'm just going to say overtime, because they all melded in my mind. Was it the first one, the second one, the third one, whatever it was? He missed some clutch free throws, but everybody did. No one was hitting free throws out there. And it's one of those things, guys, if in the 6 overtime game, if Eric Devendorf just beats the buzzer and hits a three-pointer, we all go home, and you don't have that epic game. In this game, if you just make your darn free throws, you would have made that dinner reservation. By the way, why are people leaving early from games like this? Maybe they had dinner reservations because they figured they'd have enough time to get there. Okay, it's a 3:15 tip, should be over by 5:30. We'll make a reservation at 6. Boom, we're good. So, I mean, I guess I get that, but there were people leaving way before that. Okay, the leave early crowd, I don't get you. I don't understand you. I don't think I want to understand you, especially when it's in overtime and then it's in double overtime. Barring you had some kind of commitment you just had to get to because the game ended a lot later than we thought it would. Nobody was thinking this thing's going over 3 hours. I get that. But the people that just get up and leave, like, where are you going? It's Syracuse. The people that think they're going to be like stuck in traffic for hours leaving the JMA Wireless Dome, it befuddles me. God rest his soul. My father was like that. He would get antsy. He'd want to leave early. Like, it was a game. I think he enjoyed getting to the parking lot and getting out quicker before everybody, more than taking me to the game sometimes. Like, I think it was his favorite thing to do. Anyway, I don't get why people leave these games early. Again, wasn't the prettiest thing in the world, particularly with the free throws. But once you reach a certain point where we're all like, all right, this is different. Nobody's saying it's epic. I'm not going to use the word classic. If anybody out there described this as a classic, an instant classic, anything of that note, it was not. It was not a well-played game. It ended up being a 95-86 game. I think a lot of guys deserve credit for how they played, as we'll get into here. But by no means is this going to be something that you'll remember fondly. It's going to be someone will bring it up. Like, man, remember we went to that stupid triple overtime game and it made us late for dinner or whatever that. But it was a reminder of what sports can bring you because there was nothing on the line. If anything, and again, our Syracuse Sports Insiders really hit on this. Hooray, like maybe they'll make the ACC tournament now. It was 2 sub-500 teams. Boston College came in having lost 7 of the last 8 games. Syracuse coming off their worst loss of the season to Duke. And if you want to see an epic game, and this was not that, but if you want to see a game and have triple overtime next to it, you were maybe hoping it was last week against Duke or a game with more on the line. That's what partially makes that 6 overtime game against Connecticut so epic. It was in the Big East tournament on the biggest stage in basketball at Madison Square Garden. This is a random game in February with nothing on the line. So that's why it will be forgettable. But for now, hey, you could say sports, right? Things that you don't expect happen. Eddie Lampkin played 49 minutes in this game, and he had 14 points. He had 18 rebounds. He went at it in the first Boston College game with Chad Venning, who did not play a lot in the first half, played a lot more as the game went along. He ended up playing 41 minutes, and Venning was kind of held in check, 11 points, 5 rebounds. He can certainly do worse than that. I don't think he's at 100% right now. Donald Hand Jr., who I mentioned, not a great day at the free throw line, but he had 28 points for BC, a Beetle with 16. So Eddie had 14 and 18 in the paint. J.J. Starling led Syracuse with 28 points. A bulk of that came after halftime. I believe of those 20, I think he scored 24 of those 28 points, if I'm not mistaken, after halftime. And Jair Davis, who we'll get to here, had 16 points. Chris Bell had 12. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4. You had 5 guys in double figures. Syracuse shot 47%. They were great in the paint in this one. Syracuse outscored BC 52-36 in the paint. Overall, Syracuse shoots 47%. BC shoots 43%. BC fired up 32 three-point shots in this game. They made 11 of those. Syracuse just 7 of 19. Turnovers, anytime Syracuse wins the turnover battle, if you will. I believe they're now 6-0 when they have less turnovers than their opponent. That was the case tonight. Syracuse got 21 points off turnovers. Nice to see that swing their way. BC got 18 off 13 Syracuse turnovers, so still somewhat of an issue, but they kind of kept those at a minimum. I'd like to see 13 assists. I'd like to see 10 steals from the Orange defense as well. But we got to talk about a couple of things, okay? Individuals, then we'll talk about some coaching decisions and a couple other things. Eddie Lampkin played 49 minutes for a guy who was lumbering out there for a lot of this year, had the back issues, but you kind of saw him get over that. And Naheem McLeod had actually played quality minutes for Syracuse in the past couple of games. But as Adrian Autry said after the game, Eddie's not coming out, right? Eddie does not want to come out. He'll bark at you like, no way is that happening, right? For Eddie to grind and how much the offense flows through him to get those rebounds, to score inside. And again, I say this a lot, and I have to say it again. You got to take the good with the bad with Eddie. Eddie will dribble too much. He will. He doesn't use the glass enough when it's right there, right? There are some flaws in his game, but come on. End of the day, dude's grinding out 49 minutes out there and was a key part of some offensive play, some rebounds that Syracuse needed, even played good defense at times. Guy gives you 14 and 18 and gives you 49 minutes. Come on. For a guy who at times this year you didn't feel like, I think I've said a couple of times, can't give you more than 30 minutes a game. And that was the case when his back was flaring up, but not an issue at all. He gives you everything he has, and you got to appreciate that. We mentioned JJ 28 points. JJ really had to work to get to those 28 points. 10 of 22 from the field, hit a couple of threes. Again, 6 of 10 from the free throw line. JJ missed a buzzer beater that could have won the game. He went 1 of 2 at the free throw line on several occasions when he could have iced it. That allowed Boston College another opportunity. Like, he just had to keep passing the test and had to keep getting the ball. And it's like, a pitcher in baseball gives up a home run. You got to move on, right? You strike out, you get back to the plate the next time. JJ just had to keep pushing through that because he's the go-to guy. There was a play where BC turns it over, end of regulation. JJ's got it, man. JJ's got it. Just nice clear lane. Didn't have to rush it. Come up the court. He's probably practiced this a million times in his life. And he missed the shot, right? So no Tyus battle moment in this one. No buzzer beaters in this one. Just you had to outlast Boston College. All the free throw misses by everybody. But he was great. Eddie was great. I really loved the game that Jair Davis played. And my favorite stat from Jair is he did not attempt a three because you need him in the paint. And we found out officially today that Donnie Freeman is out for the year. Not that that's a huge surprise, and his future will be discussed. I don't really want to spend a lot of time on it tonight because we'll have plenty of time to ponder that. He is going to get surgery next week. So does that mean he's coming back next year? I've heard he does want to come back next year. I think that's encouraging. Whether he does or not, we'll see, because he's got to make a business decision. It could be a business decision in terms of the portal. If somebody pulls a Malik Brown and makes him an offer he can't refuse, is it a business decision that he will pursue the NBA? And like some people say, he's not ready for the NBA. He didn't play enough. This is eerily similar to what Chris McCullough went through. Now, it's not the same injury. Chris McCullough tore his ACL, but he played, 14 games and was a first-round NBA draft pick based on potential, based on not a lot of film, not a lot of tangible things, just what NBA general managers thought they could mold him into. Donnie Freeman fits that category. I don't think he'd be a first-round pick, but if he has surgery, can recover from that, can go through and I'm not a doctor, I just play one on a podcast. I have no idea what the recovery is going to be from the procedure he's going to have. If it's a stress fracture, I'm not sure what it is. We'll see about that. But, if you can turn some heads in the combine and get one general manager to think, I could pick that guy, I could put him in the G League, whatever the case may be, he may pursue that, or he may be back next year. 3 interesting options there for Donnie Freeman, but that's official. So with Freeman out, not that Jair hasn't had to do this before, but he's got to stay in the paint, and he was great in the paint. He stepped out and did hit his jumper. He didn't have to float out to the three-point line, but he had a couple of great rainbow jumpers in the overtime sessions. I loved how he grinded in the paint. That's where he needed to be. He only had 5 rebounds. You'd like to see Jair get some more rebounds. I mean, Eddie was, vacuuming up a lot of those with 18. But I looked at that at the end of the game, and it felt like Jair Davis had a lot more than 16 points in this game, which is a credit to him and how he played. I really liked that. Okay, a couple things we got to discuss. At the end of regulation, according to Red Autry and according to a few players that I talked to, they did want to foul, right? So if JJ makes that shot, everybody, would the pod would have been done by now. People would have made their dinner reservations. Like this would have been in the past a couple hours ago. Another what if moment in this thing. Why don't you foul at the end of regulation? Right? So Boston College has it. They're inbounding it. Let me double check my notes here. I believe there was 4.5 seconds left. So much happened in this game. I'm getting lost in the details of it. I'm going to have to watch this thing again just to make sure I getting everything right that I need to get right in this case. Yeah, there's 4 seconds left. There's a timeout. They inbound the ball. So Venning gets it, and they don't foul him. They hit a 3. They tie the game, 67. We're going to overtime, right? Now, leading up, there was a point late in the game, Syracuse is up 67-60, right? But then you're going down the line here. Venning scores at 67-62, timeout. Then Boston College scores to make it 67-64. We're about a minute left now. And by the way, from this point on, Syracuse is getting all these rebounds. They're icing the game. They're getting rebounds. They're doing everything they can to be like, okay, this was a little more close for comfort than we wanted, but we got this thing. JJ steps to the line with 7 seconds to go. He misses the front end of a free throw. BC gets it. BC hits a 3. The foul that did not happen at the end. Now, according to Autry and according to a couple players, they did want to foul in that case, because if you foul, and they had fouls to give late in the game, we're not talking about triple overtime here. We're not. So they said they wanted to, but they didn't quite execute that. Okay, so for those of you like, why didn't Autry foul in that case? And according to him, they wanted to. Choppa Moore is another one that I'm really wondering about, because Choppa came out on fire. He scored 11 points in the first half. He scored 8 points right off the bat, hit a 3, had a great drive in the paint and scored, had another great drive in the paint that just rimmed out. I mean, it wasn't his fault by any stretch that he missed that shot. And just pulling it up here while we're yapping about it here, he ends up only playing 17 minutes in this game, which befuddles me, which is frustrating, because it's one thing when you're asking, why isn't Choppa Moore like the Duke game? Why isn't he playing late minutes? Get him experience. Yeah, he's sometimes a liability on defense, and, you know, he's a freshman and he has certain flaws, but get him the time. That wasn't even the case. He was playing well. He was holding his own, actually made a couple of plays on defense. So you put in Jaquan Carlos, who had 2 points, 1 of 5, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and played 33 minutes in this game. Now, what Autry said afterwards about that was what Jaquan and what Peter Mastorovich do doesn't always show up in the stats. It kind of does in this case, because you had a guy. Now, you think 95-86, there was a lot of offense in this game. The second half did turn into a basketball game somewhat before the overtimes were just crazy in how they went. But Choppa had it, and certainly should have been in this game late in the second half. Didn't even play in any of the overtimes. So a lot of people were texting me saying, well, he's got a back brace on. I asked Autry about that. It wasn't a back brace. They actually wear these they look like back braces, and they're devices it keeps you warm while you're waiting on the bench to come back in. So he was healthy. This was a coach's decision. To me, it was coaching malpractice. The fact that you did not have him in this. So he comes out hot and scores. I believe he had 11 when he went to the bench. If not, he had 8. But he just sits on the bench. Now, this is the first half, which feels like a week ago at this point. And he sits for like an 11-minute stretch in the game. Why? Carlos was not exactly killing it out there. Kyle Cuff Jr. Love Kyle Cuff Jr. Made some key plays in this game, and I know he's a veteran presence, and you kind of need him out there. He's a good free throw shooter, and he serves a purpose. I'm as big a fan as Kyle Cuff as you'll find, right? We've talked about that many times here on the postgame pod. But that was just Autry falling back on old habits, Autry falling back on his hockey lines, Autry just, this is what we do. When this timeout comes, you come in, and it's like, no, the guy's got a hot hand. He's playing well. He's confident. you need to build up his confidence. I know you're not thinking about this during a game, but do you want this dude to go in the portal? Do you want this guy to come out of a game like this satisfied? And I did talk to Chapo a little bit after the game, and he was excited how he contributed. Autry did shout him out how he got this team started, but I was bewildered. And I wasn't the only one, by the way. Not only our Syracuse Sports Insiders, but a lot of us sit in press row. We're like, what is happening? So when Moore did check back into the game, you heard kind of some of the sarcastic, he's telling fans like, oh, look what you did, coach, right? I did not understand that at all. That was befuddling to me because, again, Carlos, Cuff, the people that were in for Choppa Moore, they weren't killing it out there. Carlos made a couple of nice plays through the overtimes, but mostly had a bad game. Boston College was scoring over him. He had a bad turnover that led to a Boston College 3 the other way. And in that moment, I'm like, you got to get him out of here. Red did call timeout in that case, but that's what I think frustrates people and why they're going to look at this game and not exactly remember it fondly as a classic or anything in that sense. It's good that they won. Imagine if they lost this kind of game. We'd be having a very, very salty pod right now. That's the fine line that can happen not only in sports, but in this case. So he said he did want to foul. I'll get, okay, I believe you. Player said it, just didn't execute. If he came in that presser and said they didn't want to foul at the end of regulation in that case, I think we all would have, we'd be having a much different conversation right now, right? But the flow of the substitutions, why Choppa didn't play, there's a few other things certainly that you can haggle with. You can always do that with coaching, but this was not a coaching clinic put on by Autry tonight. I think there were some things that he did well. I think there were some good substitutions made, sticking with players that he knew was tired. The message that he was sending at timeouts. There was a passionate Autry out there pushing back on the refs a couple of times. Their goaltending call they didn't get. I don't want to get into the refs. That's not why this game was decided one way or the other. And Autry, he can't go out there and make free throws for you. So the players have to take some accountability here. But let's just put it this way. I don't think Autry did anything to help himself. There was a lot of discussion about his job. There has been a lot lately. Jim Boeheim chimed in, did a radio interview, said that, and Chris Carlson had a nice recap of this that I would encourage you to read if you haven't already. Boeheim, of course, is going to back his guy, but saying people need to have patience and he needs more time. And what they're doing is putting so much pressure on not only Autry, but this whole thing, but mostly Autry. When he's got a bigger NIL budget, when he can go buy players, just going to solve all their problems. Okay, we'll see. You still got to coach him, right? You still got to coach him. They did not strike in the portal this year. Eddie Lampkin, yes. And by the way, when you get the best players that money can buy, Eddie Lampkin was one of the top-rated centers in the portal. Eddie Lampkin was big in this game. He's been big in a lot of games. I think all told, you're going to say, hey, we needed a center. He did the job, but it's going to be wasted if it's on a team that, if it makes the ACC tournament, might do so barely. And how much damage can they really do? And they're not going to the NCAA tournament or the NIT at this rate, short of, a miracle down the stretch here where they win the ACC tournament. So is Eddie worth the price that you paid for him? In a lot of ways, yes, because can you imagine if this team didn't have Eddie running the offense through him, the double-doubles that he's had, the games? He always comes up big, in this case, in 3 hours of basketball, but a second-half guy, they needed him. So now you got to go in the portal and get another high-quality center and a point guard next year to go with the incoming recruiting class. And supposedly, they're going to have more money to spend to do it. I don't know where that money's coming from. If the House settlement goes through and they do get the $20 million to spend, well, how much of that gets allocated to basketball? Because you got a lot of football players you got to pay as well. And so a whole lot of discussions that have to go on with this. Okay, everybody just kind of comes to the conclusion that if you're going to go forward with Autry next year, well, he'll buy better players. Alex Klein, their general manager, who I like and I think is sharp and smart and is going to identify the people that Syracuse has to target in the portal. They might be able to do it. But they're putting so much on that. And you know what? You still got to coach him. You still got to coach him. Choppa Moore is one of the higher rated recruits that Syracuse has had in recent memory. And he's sitting on the bench when he should be out there playing. You still need a coach that knows how to utilize the talent. works both ways, right? Speaking of Autry, here's what he said after a wild night at the JMA Wireless Dome. I got my man Tom Petty behind me here. It's on this album right here. I won't back down. To Syracuse's credit, they did not back down.
As far as the game, I thought everyone that stepped on that court contributed. I'm just so proud of this team. The resilience, the quit. We made some mistakes. They never wavered. They kept going. We got down 7 in one of the overtimes, and we just kept going. We were just making plays. I thought everybody made big plays. I thought Elijah gave us a huge boost to keep us in it in the first half. He was great. Obviously, Eddie, keeping us around, rebounding and scoring, and Jair got it going in the overtime. And JJ was, he was JJ. He stepped up when we needed to, when we needed him to. Again, I can go all down the line of everybody that stepped into this game, but I'm just super proud of this team. That was a game that was very entertaining. Sometimes, you want to be, you want to play this. As a coach, you got an idea how you want to play, but at the end of the day, our guys persevered. They gutted out a win, and I'm just excited and proud of those guys.
One more here from Adrian Autry. I asked him if this team needed a moment like this. It's been a season of ups and downs. You're coming off the worst loss of the season. I said, put aside the opponent, put aside where you're at. Just did you need a moment like this, a memorable game and a moment that proves your team can come together when needed?
I believe so. Obviously, this team, and we are fighters. And being in a battle like this, and obviously we've been in some battles, but we've been in some, games that weren't battles. So, again, to be in a game like this and to pull this out against a BC team that has played like that, at Carolina, obviously they came back and beat Florida State. So a good BC team that's playing well, it was good for us. We needed to have that, and I'm excited that we were able to show that. And we just got to keep building, and we will keep building and fighting until the end of the season.
All right, let's hear from our Syracuse Sports Insiders. Oh, boy, was the text line it's usually a roller coaster ride. You guys bring it as always, but, oh, baby, with some of the coaching decisions, the overtimes, I got more free throws matter texts today than ever before. Shout out to Michael D, who says, my 12-year-old daughter just said, Dad, don't they know free throws matter? Even the kids know. You got to love it. Nigel says, by the way, become a Syracuse Sports Insider. It's right there on your screen. Just hit joinsubtext.com/Syracuse Sports. Takes you just 2 minutes to sign up. You can try it free for 2 weeks. It's just $3.99 a month after that to have direct text message access to me anytime, during games, not during games. You guys get texts every day from me about all the latest on Syracuse sports, my thoughts, my opinions, my analysis. If I have breaking news, you get it first. And the community we're building, saw some insiders at the game tonight, saw some insiders at the lacrosse game on Friday, and just love hearing from our Syracuse Sports Insiders. And you get an exclusive voice here on the Syracuse Basketball Postgame Show and the Syracuse Sports Podcast. Nigel says, I showed a lot of grit to come back, something to build on, I guess. Can't believe all the people that left. I don't get it. I don't get it either, man. Like, you paid the money, you're there. Where are you going? Again, I'll excuse the people that maybe had a dinner reservation they didn't think that they'd be late for, given this game started at 3:15. Gotcha. You're fine. You're excused, right? But the people that just get up and leave with like 7 minutes to go, and then get up and leave in overtime, and then get up and leave in double overtime, like, what are you doing? Where are you going? Where are you going? It's double overtime. Going into triple overtime. Where are you going? From Gabe, who says, are you liking our chances to make the ACC tournament right now? Is Gabe's only question after this one. There's going to be a theme here that develops. Gabe, and you are hitting on it here. Joe R says they never quit, went right to the buzzer and did everything they could to win. You got to give them credit for that. From Brian C, this is most exciting game of the year for sure. Syracuse showed a lot of grit after going down in the second overtime to tie it. Well, at least they're still in the running to make the ACC tournament. I told you there's going to be a theme to this. When I asked Eddie Lampkin to describe what we just saw out there, he said grit. When I asked Chris Bell the same question, he said mayhem, right? From Johnny, we all wish this was a through overtime game against Duke, but it was Boston College. They need to take any victory they can this year And he adds this, at least it puts us a foot closer to the ACC tournament with this win. Need to take any positives we can this year. Buddy P says, I don't think the fan base would have recovered from losing that game. I do agree with you there, buddy. From Michael S., who says, I am definitely happy with any Orange win, but we've reached a stage where the ceiling is qualifying for the ACC tournament. You guys noticing a theme here? This all came from you guys, right? Like, this is the thing you're looking towards. Like this, the beacon over the hill for this year is just qualifying for the ACC tournament, because 3 teams are going to get left out of the ACC tournament. So everybody's kind of like, and we got that going for us, which is nice. From Maddie S., who says, this is the most unsatisfying triple overtime win of all time. Why am I so angry after a win? I think it's because of some of the coaching things we brought up. I think it's because it was a messy game, a lot of missed free throws, a lot of missed opportunities, a lot of dumb basketball, and you just kind of throw up your hands at one point and just sports. It's a meaningless game in February. There's nothing on the line other than qualifying for the ACC tournament, apparently. I get that, Matt. I'm not going to push back on that, right? I think for the most part, you got to take the win in a sense, but it's also, I think it's, not that I've seen a lot of triple overtime games. The last time Syracuse finished and won a game in triple overtime was in 1984, by the way, against Connecticut. So it's not like we see this often, but typically when you're getting into double, triple overtime, you're saying, baby, what a game. I totally forgot that Youngstown State game went to double overtime earlier this year, because I think we all kind of wanted to forget the fact that Syracuse went to double overtime against Youngstown State. So, Maddie, that's where I get your text for sure. Rich P., never a bigger yawn for a 3 overtime win. No excuses to miss 3s and 1s in the last minute of regulation, meaning the free throws. We might make the ACC tournament. And Rich has a emoji there of the champagne popping. So they got that going for them, which is nice. Yeah, it was the best, worst game ever. You turn the page, they got the win. They're now 11-13. They're 5-8 in ACC play. Now here's a little, if you want to end on a positive note, guys. Okay. So you beat BC. It took freaking triple overtime to do it, but you did it. You got to beat Miami Tuesday night. Miami obviously is terrible. They've had a horrible season. Jim Larinaga gets up and leaves in the middle of the year. Like, I'm going to pull up the ACC standings here just while we're yapping about it here, but that is certainly there's not a lot of teams that I think Syracuse can expect to beat. There's not a lot of teams in this league, given where Syracuse is, that they can kind of, in a sense, look down on. But Miami is 1-11 in the ACC. They're 5-18. They are terrible. They're just having one of those years from hell in a lot of different ways. That's a team you got to beat. They're going to miss the ACC tournament. As it stands now, Boston College is 2-10 in ACC play. NC State's 2-9. So they're the bottom 3. Syracuse at least moved up to 5-8, and there's a bunch of teams there. Cal, Virginia, Georgia Tech, Notre Dame's 4-8, right? So short of NC State or BC making a run and Syracuse sliding down the hill here based on who's left, they're going to qualify for the ACC tournament. Hooray, as my daughter would say. Hooray. Miami, don't go there on Tuesday night and have one of those games, right? Where you're turning the ball over, you're missing a bunch of shots. The typical Syracuse slow start. Both teams kind of started slow in this one. So I believe they led it the first time out. Again, not an offensive juggernaut by any stretch in the first half. It was 34-27 at halftime. Just don't slip on a banana peel here. So now you've won 2 in a row. Now you're 12-13. And you got North Carolina coming to the Dome a week from today, who is beatable. North Carolina, 14-10, 7-5 right now. What'd they do today? North Carolina, so after losing to Duke, they squeezed by Pitt by 1. Their next game is against Clemson. By the way, did Clemson end up beating Duke? While we're talking about it here, guys, let me look at some of the scores in the ACC. When we came on the air, yes, that's final. Clemson beats Duke 77-71. Duke's first ACC loss of the season. to the Tiger. Shout out to Dick Vitale, by the way, who is back where he belongs, sitting courtside, yelling awesome baby and dipsy-doo dunkaroo and the whole thing. Dick has been through cancer. He recently had a fall at his home. He has been through a lot. My man has been through so much. And love or hate Dick Vitale, college basketball's better when he's calling games. And he was back for this one tonight, and he saw a heck of a game. So, yes, Clemson takes down Duke. Okay. Duke wallops Syracuse and then loses their first ACC game of the year, right? Miami lost to Louisville today, 88-78. That's Syracuse's next game. Yeah, that was today. Carolina beat Pitt by 1. Guys, Carolina is, they're beatable. They are beatable. Of course, Syracuse had the buzzer beater to knock them out last year. You win that game, now you won 3 in a row, and at least you're back to 500. I get no pleasure in talking about this because it in no way, shape, or form represents what we should be talking about with Syracuse basketball. But if you just want to use the old coaching cliche and see what's right in front of you, they could have a 3-game winning streak by the time we talk next week. Now, I don't think this team's done enough for me to count on that, to predict that, because they're just so inconsistent. But that's what's right in front of them, okay? So you look at Syracuse's, let's just look at the schedule the rest of the way, because I don't think I'd use the word comfortable, but right now they're in the ACC tournament. We're popping champagne emojis at this point. So let's just pull up the rest of the way here and just kind of see what we can forecast here. Miami Tuesday night, North Carolina on the 15th. Syracuse then will go to Pitt Tuesday night, February 18th. NC State, we mentioned, who's awful this year. Wednesday night at the Dome, another take care of business kind of game. So let's just say they win 3 in a row, taking down Carolina. Pitt will not be easy, never is, at the Peterson Event Center, but could be 4 in a row. NC State, you would need that to be 5 in a row. Again, this team is anything but consistent, but Virginia Tech, now we're into March 1st. That's at Blacksburg. SMU is going to be tough. That's a Tuesday night in Dallas. And then you finish with Virginia. And then this thing's over. We're a month away from the season being over from where we sit, guys. 1 month. And you heard Adrian Autry say we're going to fight to the end, right? Just get in the ACC tournament and just, then we're going to have a lot of interesting conversations. We're probably going to have a lot of interesting conversations before that. But those conversations would certainly have a Red Bull piping through their veins had Syracuse lost this game tonight. But they didn't. Not an instant classic. Not anything you're going to remember unless somebody kind of reminds you, like, remember that stupid triple overtime game we went to? Oh, yeah, that game, right? But you never know what sports can deliver. And tonight, it delivered a 95-86 victory for Syracuse in triple overtime. In triple overtime. If you had tapped me on the shoulder before this game, said, Brent, I have come from the future. I have come from 4 hours from now. And what you're going to see is a triple overtime game between Syracuse and BC. At first, I'd be like, really? And then I'd think about it for a second and be like, you know what? Nothing surprises me with these guys this year. So, yeah, that actually makes sense. That's so stupid. It makes sense. Sports, right? Thanks for hanging. Our next post-game show will be Tuesday night after Syracuse takes on Miami. Our post-game show to follow from that will be Saturday after North Carolina. Don't forget about our live pod that we're doing on many of these same channels you're watching now. Thursdays, usually around 3 o'clock. We get together, talk about all the latest in Syracuse sports. Please subscribe on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss a thing. Our Syracuse Sports Insiders always get the heads up about when the live pod is going on. They get the pod sent to them first and exclusively, and all the benefits of being a Syracuse Sports Insider. Please sign up today. We would love for you to join our growing community of Syracuse Sports Insiders. It's right there on your screen. Join subtext.com/Syracuse Sports or text the word orange to 315-847-3895. Easy to sign up. Try it free for a couple weeks. Just $3.99 a month after that. Thanks for hanging, guys. Oh, before we go quick, I should give you my Super Bowl pick. I get no pleasure in saying this, trust me. But if you're asking me what I think is going to happen tomorrow, now as a Buffalo Bills fan, trust me, I don't want to root for either team. I don't want to root for the Eagles. Shout out to my guy, Brian. Shout out to my guy, Mike McAllister. Shout out to a couple other, and I know I got more Eagles fans in my life. I'm just not thinking of all of them right now. So to my Eagles fans out there, my guys, and anybody watching that's an Eagles fan, hey, you're back in the Super Bowl. Enjoy it. It's great. No one wants to see Kansas City win other than people in the greater Kansas City area and Taylor Swift, right? So I get no pleasure in saying this, trust me. But if you're asking me what I think's going to happen, Kansas City 31-24. Now I'm going to go throw up. Go Bills. What did Josh say the other night? Be good, do good. God bless. Go Bills. There you go. That's how we'll end it here with Super Bowl Sunday looming. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl one way or the other. Enjoy the commercials anyway and all the tasty food you'll be having at your Super Bowl party. We'll meet again here Tuesday night after Syracuse takes on Miami. This has been Syracuse Basketball Postgame presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. We'll talk next time, guys.